She thought it was just another job, caring for a paralyzed billionaire with a cold stare and a colder heart. What she didn't know was who he used to be, what he was hiding, and how their stories were already more connected than either of them realized. Some jobs change your routine. This one will change her life. Tell us which city you're watching this story from. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. Hope you love this one. The rain had a cruel rhythm that night, like the world itself was mocking Ethan Holloway. From atop the rooftop helipad of Holloway Technologies, thunder cracked in the distance, while the city of Zurich shimmered below in indifference. Veronica Kingsley stood near the helicopter's open door, arms folded, heels tapping against the slick metal. "Ethan, for God's sake, get in! You're not changing anything by stalling." Ethan didn't move, his eyes stormier than the sky above were fixed on her, but he wasn't really looking at her. He was staring at everything they'd built together, everything he'd lost in the last 20 minutes. The board had voted. She'd taken over. His name, legacy, and brilliance hijacked by the one person he trusted most. "You lied," he finally said, his voice low, almost lost in the roar of wind. Veronica scoffed, stepping closer, hair whipping. In her face, "Don't be dramatic. I did what had to be done. You're brilliant, Ethan. But you're also reckless. The company needed me. Don't twist this into some noble sacrifice," he muttered. "You saw your chance, and you took it. You were waiting for me to trip, and I finally did." Veronica raised a brow. "I covered for you for months. The late nights, the impulsive spending, the silence. You were spiraling, Ethan." He stepped toward her, anger bleeding through the fatigue. "And your solution was to push me off the edge?" Suddenly, the pilot yelled something unintelligible, static, mixed with urgency in his voice. The winds picked up. Veronica's hand reached for Ethan's arm. "Please, let's just leave. Talk later. It's not safe here." But Ethan didn't budge. Something had cracked inside him, and the pieces were refusing to settle. "If I get on that helicopter, I'm surrendering to everything you've done." His voice was ice. "And I'm not ready to give you that satisfaction." Veronica's eyes softened for the first time that night. "Ethan, I loved you, still do, but love isn't enough, not anymore." He laughed, bitter, hollow. "You don't betray people you love." He turned his back to her, stepping toward the edge of the platform, the wind howling around him like a warning. Behind him, Veronica shouted, "Watch out!" But it was too late. The force of the rotors, a sudden gust, a misstep. No one would ever agree on what exactly happened. One moment, Ethan was standing. The next, he was falling, a scream catching in his throat, cut off by the brutal collision of metal and bone below. The world went silent. Everything, his ambition, his pain, her betrayal, was swallowed by the void. When Ethan awoke, he couldn't feel his legs. White walls, sterile light, the incessant beep of machines. It was a purgatory, and he was trapped. The doctors spoke in quiet tones, their pity louder than their words. "The spinal trauma is extensive," one murmured. "We're uncertain of recovery." Veronica stood in the corner, arms crossed, sunglasses still on. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stared. Ethan's father visited once. His mother didn't come at all. The board sent a fruit basket with a typed note, "Wishing you peace in this new chapter." That was it. The empire he'd sacrificed everything for had moved on without him. Veronica returned a few days later, not to comfort, but to negotiate. "Let's make this easier for both of us," she said, sliding papers toward him. "Power of attorney, full transfer, NDA." He stared at the documents for a long time. Then, without looking at her, he whispered, "You already took everything." She didn't deny it, she just turned and left. In the days that followed, Ethan barely spoke. His body ached, his mind screamed, and the silence was deafening. Every breath felt like failure. Every hour was a reminder of what he'd lost. Then came the new nurse. She didn't knock, just entered quietly one morning with a clipboard and a determined look. "Mr. Holloway?" she asked. "I'm Emily. I'll be taking care of you." He turned his head, stared at her blankly. "Great, another pity project." She didn't flinch. Not pity. Employment. Her voice was calm, warm, unshaken. For a flicker of a second, that irritated him more than the pain. But something about her lingered as she moved, efficient, quiet, present without being overbearing. She didn't fill the room with empty words. She just did her job. And for a man drowning in noise and betrayal, that silence was oddly grounding. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling and whispered to the dark, "I'm not broken. I'm not." Outside, the storm had passed, but inside Ethan Holloway, something was only just beginning. The next morning, Ethan found Emily at the window, gazing out at the frozen lake that wrapped around the estate like a secret. Her silhouette was calm, framed by the winter light. "Admiring the scenery?" he asked, voice groggy but sharp. She turned, surprised. "It's beautiful, cold, but honest." Ethan scoffed. "Like most people I've known." Emily didn't smile. "You don't know me yet." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even defiance. Just truth, placed gently between them. Ethan looked away, annoyed at how her presence unsettled him. He had expected compliance, not clarity. He'd expected a caretaker, not someone who seemed anchored. "You've done this long?" he asked, breaking the silence. "Long enough," she replied. "My first patient was my grandmother. She had early-onset dementia." He raised an eyebrow. "That's different from a paraplegic tech mogul." Emily nodded. "Pain doesn't measure itself by bank accounts." There it was again, her subtle disarming of him. No pity, no performance, just presence. It irritated him how effective she was, how she didn't treat him like a collapsed monument, but as someone still human, even when he barely felt that way. Later, as she massaged his lower back, working methodically around the scar tissue, he flinched. "You don't have to pretend it doesn't disgust you," he muttered. Emily's hands didn't pause. "Scars are just pages of a story you survived." Ethan clenched his jaw. "And what story does this tell?" Emily finally looked up, eyes meeting his. "That you tried to save someone." He stared at her, breath caught for a moment. "Who told you that?" She returned to her task. "No one had to. Your body tells more truth than most mouths." For a moment, the room felt smaller, warmer. He closed his eyes, remembering the impact, the metal, the scream Veronica never made. Emily said nothing else. She didn't have to. Her silence filled the spaces no words could. Over the next few days, something strange began to happen. Ethan stopped resisting the sessions. He still cursed, still pushed back, but he allowed her in, allowed her to stretch, adjust, care. The human touch, something once meaningless to him, began to anchor his restless mind. She spoke little, but always listened. Sometimes her silence said more than words ever could. Then came the dreams. Ethan hadn't dreamt in months, at least not that he remembered. But now they came in cold flashes, the rooftop, the wind, Veronica's hands slipping away, and the fall. Always the fall. He would wake up breathless, sweat soaking his back, and find Emily there, sitting in the corner with a book. "Couldn't sleep," she'd say softly. "Didn't want you to wake up alone." One afternoon, during a routine session, Ethan asked without thinking, "Do you have kids?" Emily paused. Her hands stilled for half a second, then resumed. "Yes. A son." That answer, quiet and unflinching, knocked something loose in him. He hadn't expected it. She never mentioned family. "Where is he?" he asked. Emily smiled, faintly. "Safe. with someone I trust." Then she changed the subject. Later that evening, Ethan found himself searching through the house records, security footage, staff files. Curiosity disguised as control, but he found nothing on Emily's son, no names, no visitors, no trace. He told himself it didn't matter, but it did. She had become a variable he couldn't predict, and that terrified him. The more stable she appeared, the more unstable he felt. On the fourth morning, snow blanketed the world like silence. Emily wheeled Ethan out onto the patio against his protest. "This is pointless," he said through clenched teeth. "You can't beat nature with defiance," she replied. "But you can let it remind you that you're still alive." He sat quietly. For the first time in months, he didn't feel the urge to retreat indoors. "You don't talk about your fall," Emily said gently. Ethan was silent for a long time. Then, "Because I don't remember the landing, just the betrayal." "Before it," Emily nodded. "It's not the fall that haunts people, it's the moment right before, the certainty that nothing will be the same." He looked at her, something shifting behind his eyes. "You've fallen before, haven't you?" Her gaze dropped to her hands. "Once. I thought it would kill me." Then she stood. "But it didn't. And I'm here." As she turned to leave, Ethan found himself saying something he hadn't said in weeks. "Thank you." Emily paused in the doorway, then offered a quiet, rare smile. "We're just getting started." Ethan had always been a man of logic. Pattern, precision, predictability, they were the tools that had built his empire. But Emily Carter was none of those things. She was a locked door, and locked doors had never stayed closed to Ethan Holloway. The more she gave him peace, the more he craved answers. Who was she? Why did her silence feel louder than most screams? That night he accessed the staff registry again. Nothing new, no middle name, no emergency contact, just an address from a rural town in northern England. It was like she'd erased herself before arriving, a ghost wrapped in warm hands. Ethan zoomed in on a still from a hallway camera, Emily tucking in a blanket over him as he slept. A gesture so ordinary, yet it unmade something inside him. The next morning, as Emily adjusted his wheelchair straps, he said, "You hide well." She blinked, expression calm. "Not everyone wants to be seen. But everyone leaves a trail," he pressed. "Except you." She met his gaze, unflinching. "Some trails are buried on purpose." Ethan's jaw tightened. She wasn't just hiding something, she needed to hide it, and that made him want it more. Later that day, as she guided him through resistance training, he pushed harder than usual. Muscles trembled, sweat trickled. "You're pushing too fast," she warned. "Maybe I like the pain," he shot back. "Pain isn't progress, Ethan." His name in her voice felt different, grounded, human. He softened, just a fraction. "You don't talk about your son much," she sighed, "because people don't really ask to know. They ask to control." Something snapped in Ethan's chest, that familiar surge of needing to know, needing to own the story. Not for malice, but for safety. Control was his armor. She was stripping it away. "Was it abuse?" he asked. Suddenly, "Did someone hurt you?" Emily didn't respond. Her hands stilled. The silence became so thick it echoed. Then in a whisper, "He wasn't who he said he was. And I paid for believing him." Ethan didn't press. Not then. But her answer haunted him long after she left the room. That night, the dreams returned. Only they weren't of the fall. They were of her, holding a child, running, hiding, screaming through walls that never heard. He woke with a start, gasping. Cold sweat clung to his spine. Outside, the house was silent. Inside, his mind burned. Over the next few days, his obsession grew quietly. He asked subtle questions, dropped hints, observed her reactions. Once, when he mentioned old lovers who disappear, her eyes darkened for a heartbeat. Another time, when he asked if Liam's father was still alive, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "He's not part of the equation anymore," she said, and that was final. One evening, when Emily was in the kitchen, Ethan rolled into her room. It felt wrong, but he needed answers. There, beside her neatly folded clothes and medical books, was a locked box under the bed, no key in sight. His fingers hovered over it. A picture frame sat on the nightstand. Emily with a boy, maybe 5 years old, both laughing. His name wasn't written anywhere. Behind him, her voice, quiet but cold, stopped him. "Some rooms aren't meant to be entered, Ethan." He turned, caught red-handed, words failing him. She didn't yell, didn't cry, just looked at him, disappointed. "You're not the only one with broken pieces," she whispered. Then she walked away, leaving him alone with the weight of his curiosity. For the first time in years, Ethan felt guilt crawl up his spine like fire. He tried to rationalize it, concern, not control. But deep down, he knew. She'd given him care. He repaid it with intrusion. That night, he sat in the therapy room alone, staring at the parallel bars. He whispered to the dark, "Why does she feel like the only real thing I have?" Suddenly, a memory surged. His mother, once vibrant, pressing her hand to his chest after a childhood injury. "Some people heal you just by staying." Emily was one of them, and he'd nearly driven her away. But Emily hadn't gone. The next day, she returned at the usual hour. No mention of the night before, no withdrawal, just presence. And as she helped him rise into the harness, she said softly, "Everyone has rooms with locked doors. What matters is how gently you knock." Ethan didn't answer. But when he looked at her, something inside him had shifted. For the first time, he didn't see her as a puzzle to solve, but a soul to protect. The therapy room had become a second heart for Ethan. Cold tiles, steel bars, and padded walls now pulsed with memory and meaning. Every failed step, every shaking grip was a mark of something bigger, of trying. And Emily was always there, never overbearing, never coaxing false hope, just there. The silence between them had grown warm, comfortable, sacred. This morning, as the sun cut through the windows in pale ribbons, Ethan tightened his grip on the parallel bars. Emily adjusted the harness carefully. "Ready?" she asked. "Let's pretend I am," he muttered, a faint smirk on his lips. His arms were steadier now, his back straighter, his legs still hollow, but not silent. There were whispers now, ghosts of movement. With Emily steadying the harness, Ethan began to push. The strain was brutal. Sweat erupted instantly. But then he felt something, a subtle tremor in his thigh, a jolt. "I think," he gasped. "I saw it," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Again. Slow. Don't rush it." His breath came in short bursts. His eyes burned. Another twitch, more forceful this time. Then the faintest shift of weight forward. He collapsed after a second, but the smile on Emily's face told him everything. "You're reconnecting," she said. "It's slow, but it's real." Ethan closed his eyes, chest heaving. "I forgot what hope feels like. It's terrifying." Emily knelt beside him. "Hope should scare you. It's proof you're still alive." The room fell quiet, save for the rhythmic beating of their shared silence. But just as Ethan felt a flicker of control return to his broken body, it was yanked away hours later by the sound of an all-too-familiar voice at the front gate. Veronica Kingsley. She didn't wait for permission. Her heels echoed down the corridor like gunshots. Ethan sat in the main parlor as she entered, perfectly composed, in a red trench coat. "Darling," she said, her smile a razor. "Miss me?" Emily stood nearby, professional but alert. Ethan's voice was clipped. "What are you doing here?" Veronica tossed her coat over the chair and sat, legs crossed. You've been ignoring the lawyers. I figured I'd come check if you were still breathing." Her eyes flicked toward Emily. "And I see you've replaced me already. Trade up or down?" Ethan's jaw flexed. "You can leave." But Veronica leaned in. "Didn't you hear? You still owe me, and I don't mean emotionally, darling. I mean financially. You want peace. Sign the final release, or I talk." Emily froze. Ethan's breath hitched. "Talk about what?" he asked slowly. "About what really happened that night," she said sweetly. "About the deal you buried, the offshore leak. The board still thinks I saved them." Emily quietly left the room, sensing the rising tension, but not without a glance that burned through him like guilt. Veronica leaned back. "I don't care about your legs, Ethan. I care about control. And if I can't have you, I'll have your name in ruin." Ethan wanted to scream, to stand, to fight, but he couldn't move, couldn't win, not this way. Hours later, Emily returned to find Ethan staring at the fireplace, his hands trembling. "She knows something," he muttered. Emily sat beside him. "Then tell me first. Give me your version before the world gets hers." He looked at her, eyes hollow. "I took a deal I shouldn't have. Months before the fall, risked it all to protect the company. I hid it from everyone, including her." "She found out?" Emily asked. "And leveraged it, used it to take my seat." He laughed, bitterly. "I thought I fell because of the wind. Now I wonder if I was pushed in more ways than one." Emily reached for his hand. He let her hold it. "You made a mistake," she said, "but you're still standing, figuratively for now, and I'm not going anywhere." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep, so he returned to the therapy room. Alone, no harness, no Emily, just the bars. His fingers wrapped around the cold steel, his legs twitched barely, but it was enough. He gritted his teeth and pulled. Every nerve screamed. He didn't rise, but he didn't fall either. He held, shaking, breathing, enduring. That, he realized, was progress. And behind him in the doorway, Emily watched in silence, her eyes full of something like fear and pride. He didn't know she was there, but she whispered anyway to the empty room, "You're more than what she broke." It started with a USB drive, an unmarked black relic that arrived in a plain envelope with no return address. Ethan found it on his desk the morning after Veronica's visit. At first he thought it was a bluff, another scare tactic. But curiosity, that cruel instinct, gnawed at him. He inserted the drive into his laptop and clicked open the only file inside. Project Holloway, secured, redacted. His heart dropped. It was a full breakdown of the offshore transaction he had buried, a $14.2 million transfer into an anonymous investment shell. But worse, it was dated the day before his accident. Veronica hadn't found this. Someone else had. Ethan's chest tightened. Who else knew, and why now? He called his old cybersecurity consultant, disconnected. The trail was cold. Whoever sent this knew the timing mattered. Emily noticed something was off that day. Ethan was quieter, eyes sharper, less biting, more haunted. "Bad night?" she asked during his muscle stimulation session. He hesitated. "I'm being hunted, quietly, but precisely." She didn't blink. "What do they want?" He looked at her, really looked. "To remind me I'm not safe, even here." Emily's hands paused just a beat too long. Then she resumed. Hours later, while Ethan worked through resistance exercises, a knock echoed down the hallway. Light, fast, strange. Emily excused herself and disappeared. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Ethan rolled himself toward the hallway, something heavy in his gut. He found her in the vestibule, kneeling before a boy. A small child with dark curls, hugging her waist, whispering, "Mom, I was scared." He followed me. Emily turned sharply when she saw Ethan. Her face paled. "This is Liam," she said, standing slowly. Ethan blinked. I figured. Liam looked up at him, unafraid. Are you the one who's sad? Ethan didn't know what to say. He just nodded. Liam stepped forward. It's okay. Mom makes the sad go away. Just takes time. Then he smiled, a pure, fearless thing. Ethan felt something inside him break. Later, in the quiet of the sunroom, Ethan sat beside Emily. Liam was napping in the corner, curled under a throw. You said he was with someone. You trusted, Ethan said softly. He was, but someone was watching the house. Her voice was even. I think it's connected to the past. My past. Or yours. Ethan looked at her. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Emily didn't flinch. Would you have let us stay? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The question hung in the air like a verdict. Emily stood. I won't. Put him in danger. If this place isn't safe, we'll leave. Wait, Ethan said. Stay. Just let me figure out what's coming. She turned slowly. You already know, don't you? He nodded. The fall wasn't the only thing. I buried. That night, while Liam slept upstairs, Emily sat beside Ethan in the study. He unlocked a folder on his private drive, then slid the laptop toward her. Read it. All of it. Pages and pages of financial maneuvering, political bribery, whistleblower suppression. Emily's breath hitched. You did all this? I justified it, called it protection. But in the end, I was just afraid of being irrelevant. Emily leaned back. You didn't fall because you were weak, Ethan. You fell because you thought survival meant silence. He closed his eyes. Veronica knows, but someone else does too, and they're closer than I thought. She leaned forward, voice low. Then you have to decide. Keep hiding, or finally speak. It could ruin me, he said. Emily touched his hand. Maybe, or it could save the part of you that still matters. The next morning, Liam ran into the therapy room and sat beside the parallel bars. Can I help again? He asked brightly. Ethan smiled, truly smiled. Of course. Emily nodded from behind. Let him. He keeps your balance better than I ever could. Liam watched intently as Ethan gripped the bars. You're stronger now, he said. I can see it. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Then he whispered, Thanks to you both. And as he pulled himself up, legs trembling but holding, he realized that the weight on his shoulders wasn't just about business or betrayal or paralysis. It was about redemption, about rebuilding what was shattered, not just bones or deals, but trust, love, family. And in the doorway, someone watched from the shadows. It began with the sound of gravel, crushed, deliberate, calculated. Ethan sat upright in his chair, instinct prickling through his skin. The estate's front gate, usually silent, buzzed with a presence that wasn't on the schedule. Emily appeared moments later, her face pale but composed. There's someone outside, she said. He asked for you, no name. Just said he's here to collect a debt. Ethan's blood ran cold. Description: tall, lean, dark. Coat, English accent, smiles too much. Ethan didn't need more. Lock the doors, he ordered. Now! Emily hesitated. You know him? Not by name, but by result. Ethan wheeled toward his study, heart pounding. The ghost file wasn't the only piece of blackmail in existence. There were others, things he'd hidden. But this was personal. 15 minutes later, the man was inside. The guards didn't stop him. They'd been paid more, or threatened better. He entered the room like he belonged, removing his gloves with unsettling calm. Mr. Holloway, he greeted with a smile. Charming place, cold, remote, just like your secrets. Ethan stared him down. Cut the theatrics. What do you want? The man chuckled. Just the truth. and a little insurance. Emily stood between them. "You're not welcome here." The man looked her over, smile tightening. "Emily Carter, thought you vanished. You've always had a habit of getting too close to trouble." Ethan's eyes snapped to her. Emily didn't blink. "And you always had a talent for being its messenger." The man raised an eyebrow. "So civil, considering our last exchange. Ended with blood on the floor." Ethan turned to her slowly. "Emily, who is he?" She exhaled. "His name is Colin Shaw. He used to work with my son's father. When I left, Colin followed. He's the reason we keep moving." Colin clapped once, slowly. "Beautiful reveal. Bit late, though. The boy's already on the record." "You're not invisible anymore, darling." Ethan's voice dropped. "You came for her?" Colin smiled wider. "Her? You? The data? Doesn't matter. We want a story, one that ends in silence, unless, of course, you'd like to buy time." Ethan clenched his fists. "How much?" "Truthfully." Colin leaned closer. "There's no price, just consequences." Then he turned and walked out, as calmly as he had arrived. Emily was frozen. "We need to leave." "No," Ethan said, voice hard. "We need to fight." Emily looked at him. "With what?" "The truth," he answered. "Everything I've buried. It's time I dig it up and throw it back." Emily grabbed his hand. "That could destroy everything you've rebuilt." Ethan met her eyes. "If I let him control me, I'm still in the chair, even if I stand." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He wrote, for hours, emails, confessions, letters. He drafted a full account of the offshore scandal, the illegal protections, the way Veronica used it. He named names, he time-stamped everything, and then he saved it all to a file titled "Break Glass in Case of Cowardice." He didn't hit send. Not yet, but he would. Emily watched from the doorway. "If you do this, you may lose everything." Ethan turned. "I already lost it once. What I have now, you, Liam, this place, it's real. It's worth protecting, even with fire." She stepped into the room and kissed his forehead. "Then we do it together," he whispered. "Don't be afraid of me breaking again." She shook her head. "I'm only afraid you'll stop trying." The next morning, Liam found Ethan in the therapy room, already gripping the bars. "No session today?" he asked, yawning. Ethan smiled. "We make our own schedule now." And with every ounce of focus, he began to rise, higher than before. His body shook, muscles screamed, but he moved. He rose, he stood, and Liam clapped wildly. "You did it!" Emily entered just in time to see it. Her hands flew to her mouth, tears spilling over. And in the corner of the house, unseen by them all, a red light blinked, a hidden camera capturing everything. Not to the press, not to the public, but to Ethan's inbox. Subject line, inspiration. The attached clip was silent, Ethan rising, trembling, defying gravity with every inch. Emily sobbing in the background, Liam cheering, a perfect symbol of hope, weaponized as leverage. Below it, a simple message from Colin. "What a beautiful lie. Let's see how long it lasts." Ethan stared at the screen, numb. He'd fought to reclaim his body, his name, his purpose, and now even his recovery was someone else's pawn. Emily entered, reading the silence instantly. "What happened?" He turned the screen. She inhaled sharply, then whispered, "He's already started." Ethan nodded. "And it's just the beginning." Emily sat, her voice steady. "Then we build a wall before the storm hits." They called in favors, legal contacts Ethan hadn't spoken to in years. Quiet tech experts who could track metadata, and a journalist from Berlin whom Emily swore she could trust. Each night they strategized over tea and tension, and each day Ethan pushed harder, stood longer, walked further, the strength in his Legs now mirrored the strength in his convictions, and that terrified him more than paralysis ever had. Liam, blissfully unaware, filled the house with joy. He danced in hallways. He built pillow forts. He drew superheroes, always 3 of them, one with crutches, one with long brown hair, one small and grinning with wild curls. "That's us," he told Ethan proudly. "We protect people." Ethan smiled, but the ache in his chest grew heavier. Protecting Liam would mean exposing everything. On a rainy evening, Emily brought out a wooden box and placed it on the table between them. "There's something you don't know," she said, voice tight, "about Liam." Ethan straightened. "He's not mine, not biologically." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You said his father left you." "He did, but not in the way you think." She opened the box and pulled out a manila folder. Inside, a birth certificate. No father listed. "He's adopted?" Ethan asked, voice low. "No," Emily said. "He's mine, just not like that. I was working at a shelter. In Wales, a woman came in bruised, terrified, dying. She begged me to take him, said she had run from something she couldn't name. She disappeared that night. Police never found her. I never told the state. I raised him myself, changed towns, changed names." Ethan couldn't speak. His mind raced. "So, he's undocumented?" Emily nodded slowly. "If Colin or anyone gets this out, Liam becomes a target. He could be taken, locked into a system that doesn't care." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't trust you," she said. "Not then. You were still living in shadows." He leaned forward, his voice breaking. "And now?" She looked at him, really looked. "Now you'd burn the world down to keep us safe. That's why I'm telling you." Ethan's fists clenched. "Then we need to make this fortress real, iron, not paper." Emily smiled faintly. "We don't need iron. We just need to tell the truth first." "To who?" he asked. "Everyone," she said, "but on our terms." The next morning, Ethan held a press call from his estate. The media assumed it was about a product relaunch. Instead, he stood, unassisted for the first time on record, and told the world about the mistake he made, the deal, the cover-up, the fall, the silence, the woman who saved him, the child who taught him to fight again. Some called it brave, others desperate. Veronica went silent. Colin didn't. Another message came that night. "You think truth protects you? Ask her where the scars really came from." Attached was a grainy image, a woman in a hospital gown, bruised, bloodied, holding a baby wrapped in blue, and behind her, partially visible, Colin. Ethan looked at Emily, waiting. She nodded once, tears in her eyes. He wasn't just part of Liam's past. He was there the day he was born. The photo haunted Ethan, not just the bruises or the sterile light of the hospital room, but the smirk barely visible behind the curtain, Colin's unmistakable presence, a phantom with intent. Emily sat across from him, frozen, as if time itself had splintered. "You knew he was there," Ethan said gently. Emily nodded. "But I didn't know why, or for how long." She leaned forward, voice trembling. "He wasn't just following the mother. He knew. He let her bleed out in that ward. He watched her die, then walked away." Ethan's knuckles turned white around the photo. "So what is he?" Emily answered without blinking. "The biological father of Liam." The room fell silent, too heavy for oxygen to move through. Ethan felt his mind unravel. Liam, his bright dancing Liam, Colin's son. The idea made his skin crawl. "You've never told him?" Ethan said, though it wasn't a question. "Of course not," she said. "Liam only knows love and joy and safety. That man will never take that from him." Ethan stood, swaying on weak legs, but too angry to fall. "He's escalating. He's not threatening. He's building something." A knock shattered the moment. One of Ethan's security guards entered. "Sir, a man was spotted near the north cameras, didn't breach the property, but he lingered." 2 hours? Ethan nodded slowly. "Bring the footage." They watched together as the silent recording played. Colin, standing near the tree line, holding a child's drawing, one Liam had taped to the mailbox weeks ago. Emily broke. Her knees gave out. Ethan caught her. "He's not just coming for us," she whispered. "He's watching, planning, waiting for a moment when we're not looking." Ethan led her to the couch, heart breaking at the fear in her eyes. "We won't give him that moment," he said. "We won't blink. We won't break." Emily looked up, tears hot. "I want to disappear again." Ethan shook his head. "No, that's what he wants. But Liam deserves better. You deserve better." Emily swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" He took a breath. "We find the only person he's ever feared, the mother's sister. There was one mention of her in the old police report. We trace her. We bring her forward. We prove Liam has roots and protect them." The next 48 hours blurred into phone calls, encrypted messages, and tense strategy meetings. Ethan's old political contacts opened doors. Emily unearthed the handwritten journal the dying mother had left, hidden in Liam's old blanket. Inside were cryptic lines. He called it mercy. I called it murder. He said the child would be better off without me. I chose otherwise. Ethan's voice broke as he read it aloud. "She knew, and still fought to leave him behind," Emily whispered, "and I'll do the same if I have to." But Ethan grabbed her hand. "You don't have to. I'll stand in front of you both, even if it kills me." That night, Liam slept between them for the first time. A small fortress of warmth and innocence. Emily cried quietly, cradling him like armor. The call came at 3 a.m., the journalist from Berlin. "We found her," she said. "Amara Wells, lives off-grid. In rural Scotland, changed her name. She doesn't want to be found. But she knows the boy. She remembers everything." Ethan booked a jet within the hour. Emily packed one bag, and when Liam woke, Ethan knelt beside him. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Liam smiled, nodding. "Always." Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. "Then we're going on an adventure. One to protect our family." Liam clapped. "Will there be dragons?" Ethan smiled faintly. "There already are, but we'll slay them. Together." As the jet sliced through the sky, Emily stared out the window, silent. Ethan reached for her hand. She gripped it like a lifeline. "This isn't just about the past anymore," she said. "It's about claiming the future." Ethan nodded. "And not letting monsters rewrite our story." Below them the world spun, and in a hidden place, a man named Colin watched their flight manifest on a private tracker and whispered to the dark, "Let the game begin." The cottage was nestled between 2 dead trees, surrounded by nothing but wind and stone. No lights, no signs, no welcome. Amara Wells had made herself invisible, and she'd done it well. Ethan stepped out first, cane in hand, boots crunching through frost. Emily held Liam tightly beside him. The boy looked up, puzzled. "Why is it so quiet?" "Because some people have been hurt too deeply to make noise," Emily replied. They approached slowly. Ethan knocked twice. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. Emily was about to speak when the door creaked open. A woman in her 40s stood behind it, sunken eyes, thin lips, hands trembling. "I know why you're here," she said before either could speak. Her voice was dry, cracked from years of disuse. "Come in before the wind makes us regret it." Inside, the cottage was bare. Books, candles, an old radio. No phone, no internet. Just a life reduced to breath and survival. Amara sat in a wooden chair, motioning for them to do the same. Her eyes never left Liam. "He looks like her," she whispered. "Like Grace." Emily leaned forward. You were her sister. Not by blood, Amara said, but by every other vow that matters. Ethan handed her the photo. The one Colin had sent. Her face hardened. He was always there, lurking, waiting. He wanted her broken, not dead. He didn't kill her with a knife. He killed her with silence, neglect, with fear. Emily's voice trembled. She trusted you. She said so in her journal. Amara nodded. She made me promise to vanish if she died. I've kept that promise, until now. Ethan reached into his coat and produced a copy of Liam's birth certificate. We need something more, a statement, anything that ties Liam to her, legally, emotionally, spiritually. Amara looked at him. Do you want to protect the boy or punish the man? Both, Ethan said without hesitation. But the boy comes first. Amara nodded once. Then you'll have what you need. She led them to a small back room. Inside was a box, water-stained, duct-taped, sealed like a relic. These are Grace's letters, her DNA records, her photos. And one last thing, she pulled out a single video cassette. Grace made this the week before she died. I've never watched it, couldn't. Emily took it, holding it like glass. We will, for her, for Liam. They left just before nightfall. The wind had grown teeth, slicing through the hills like knives. Liam clung to Ethan's hand, quiet, for once. That lady was sad, he said. Ethan nodded. Some people carry sadness like a backpack, heavy, but if you share it, it gets lighter. Liam considered that. Then I want to carry some too. The jet was quiet on the return. Flight. Emily sat with Liam asleep in her lap. Ethan watched the cassette clenched in her hands. We'll digitize it when we land, he said. And show the world, she asked. No, Ethan replied. Just enough of it. Just the truth. But as the plane descended, Ethan's phone lit up with a notification, private message from Veronica Kingsley, and the subject made his blood freeze. He's with me. The message included a video, shaky, dimly lit, but unmistakable. Colin, in a luxury flat, holding a toy truck. Liam's toy truck. Veronica's voice in the background, mocking. You should have taken the deal, Ethan. Emily saw the screen. Her scream woke Liam. She clutched him like a mother clings in fire. He was inside our house, she gasped. Inside. Ethan's mind raced. He's baiting us, pushing us to react, to make a mistake. What do we do? She asked. We don't go to the police, Ethan said. Not yet. We make the trade. On our terms. Emily stared at him. What trade? Ethan's eyes darkened. Me, for the boy. He wants me in chains. Then I give him the illusion of control. No, Emily said. That's not a solution. It's a distraction, Ethan corrected, while we find the real way to bury him, not with power, with proof. Emily whispered, You're not a weapon anymore. Ethan answered, Then it's time to become something worse, a man with nothing left to lose. And as the jet touched down, Colin's final message played through the speakers. You think she was the victim, but ask her how many lies it took to build your happy little lie. Ask her what she never told you about Liam's first year, because the truth doesn't just burn, Ethan. It buries. The cassette was old, edges frayed like a story told too many times. Ethan held it like it might dissolve in his hands. The room had been cleared. Liam was asleep upstairs. Emily sat beside him, clutching a blanket to her chest like a shield. Are you sure? Ethan asked. She nodded once. It's time. They digitized the tape in silence. The screen flickered to life, static, then color. A woman appeared. Grace, wild curls, pale skin, eyes that hadn't yet given up. She looked straight into the camera. No makeup, no filters, just raw humanity. If you're watching this, she began, I'm probably gone. Her voice cracked. And that means he's still out there. Ethan leaned forward, heart hammering. Grace continued. Colin. Sure, my abuser, my child's father. He doesn't want custody. He wants erasure. I ran when I found out what he'd done. To others, to me. He used my name to move money. Used my face to blackmail powerful men. She pulled a folder into frame. These are names, codes, bank paths. He's not just a predator. He's an architect. Emily gasped. She knew everything. Grace paused in the video, her eyes dark. But there's more. Emily Carter. She saved me, she hid me, but I broke that trust. Ethan glanced at Emily. She froze. Grace whispered, Liam is not Colin's. Not biologically. I lied. I told Emily he was. I needed her protection. I didn't know who the father was, just that Colin wanted the boy for leverage. Ethan blinked. What? Emily's lips parted, stunned. Grace continued, tears now streaming. Emily, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I used you, and you stayed. You raised him like your own. You loved him better than I ever could have. You made my son safe, and I will never deserve you. Emily covered her mouth, shaking. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought he was his. Ethan took her hand gently. You believed her. You were trying to survive. Grace's final words echoed through the room. If Colin ever finds you, don't trust the law. He owns pieces of it. Bury him with truth. Use this. It's all I have left. The screen went black. Emily stared forward, hollow. All this time, I thought I was protecting Liam from his father, but it was never about blood. Ethan held her tighter. You still were. You protected him from becoming a pawn. That makes you his mother, always. But deep inside, a fear was rising, because if Colin knew the truth, he might not just want Liam, he might want revenge. The next morning, Ethan's phone rang. Unknown. Number? He answered. Colin's voice crackled through. Touching little video. Grace had a flair for drama. Ethan didn't reply. But now you know. He's not mine, which means I don't need him anymore. Ethan froze. What did you say? Colin chuckled. He's become expendable. A message, one that says, don't chase ghosts if you can't bury the bones. The line went dead. Ethan sprang into motion. He's bluffing, Emily said. He has to be bluffing. Ethan's jaw clenched. He's never bluffed once. They alerted the private team, traced the signal. It pinged from an industrial zone 30 miles outside Zurich, too far for police, too fast for delay. Ethan looked at her. I'm going. No, Emily said. You're not strong enough. Then I'll crawl if I have to. He gripped her hand. I have to be the one, because I'm the one who let this man walk through every line I swore to protect. She looked at him, eyes full of fire and fear. Then I'm coming too. They left within the hour. The safe house was a burned-out warehouse, silent, too silent. They moved like ghosts through broken concrete. And then they heard it. A whimper, a child's voice. Hello, Liam. Emily rushed ahead, found him sitting in a circle of toys, untouched, unharmed. Mom! He shouted. She scooped him up, crying. But Ethan held up a hand. It's too quiet, he whispered. A light flickered. On. Colin stood on a platform above, clapping slowly. Bravo, he said. Family reunion complete. But here's the question, Ethan. Would you trade your name for your life? Ethan stepped forward. No, I'll trade something better. He held up a flash drive. This contains Grace's statement. The names, the bank codes, it's already backed up globally. If you touch us, your entire operation burns. Colin's smile faltered. You're bluffing. Check your accounts, Ethan said. Your offshore net just turned to ash. You're not invisible anymore. Colin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, eyes widened, face drained of color. Then rage, pure, blinding rage. He pulled a pistol from his coat. You ruined me. and from behind, a second gun cocked. The journalist from Berlin, stepping out of the shadows with a camera strapped to her chest. "You're live, Mr. Shaw." Colin hesitated. One breath, two. Then he dropped the weapon. His hands trembled. His empire, in real time, dissolving in front of him. Ethan collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Emily held Liam close, eyes locked with Ethan's. "You did it," she whispered. "We did." Ethan smiled through tears. No more lies. No more ghosts. Outside, sirens echoed, but inside, for the first time, the silence felt like peace. The sun rose slower that morning, as if even the sky was reluctant to turn the page. Rain had passed in the night, soaking Zurich streets, but now the city breathed again. In Ethan's estate, silence reigned, but not the kind that suffocated, the kind that came after chaos, after survival, after truth. Liam slept curled between two blankets, thumb resting near his mouth, clutching a toy soldier Ethan had bought him weeks ago. Emily stood at the window, arms folded, eyes distant. "It's over," she whispered. Ethan, seated beside the fireplace, nodded. "For now." But they both knew the storm hadn't vanished. It had just shifted. Justice, after all, was slow and fragile. Colin had been arrested at the warehouse, stunned by the collapse of his network. The journalist's live stream had gone viral. His name, his face, the exposed ledgers. There would be trials, lawyers, deals. But the world had seen enough to ensure he could never crawl back into the shadows again. Still, justice had a scent of ash. It never quite erased the burn. Emily turned to Ethan. "He asked for you before they took him." Ethan didn't reply. "Why didn't you go?" she asked. He looked at the fire. "Because there's nothing left to say." I saw everything I needed in his eyes when the lights hit his face. The fear, the end. Emily nodded slowly. "He's the kind of man who needs power more than oxygen. Now he has neither." Later that day, Ethan stood on his terrace, overlooking the garden where Liam played. The boys' laughter floated up like smoke. Pure, unbothered, unknowing. Ethan gripped the railing. "He doesn't have to know the weight of the war," he said quietly. "Not for a long time." Emily joined him, her arm brushing his. "He knows what matters, who stayed, who protected him." "Speaking of ghosts," Ethan said, "Veronica requested a visit." Emily tensed. "Why?" "Closure, she says." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You think she's capable of that?" Ethan didn't answer, but he agreed. And when Veronica arrived, it was like stepping into a memory already fading. Perfect hair, designer coat, eyes full of damage she'd never admit. "I watched the tape," she said, not waiting to sit. "All of it." Ethan kept his tone flat. "And?" "You were right," she admitted. "About everything, about him, about me." Her voice cracked. "I just didn't want to be the woman left behind." Ethan nodded. "So you decided to get ahead, even if it meant stepping on me." She looked at the floor. "You don't have to forgive me." "I won't," he said. "But I also won't hate you anymore. That's yours to carry." Her eyes filled with something like regret. "And her? Emily?" "She saved me," Ethan said. "You survived me. There's a difference." Veronica smiled sadly. "Then I guess this is goodbye." "It already was," he said. She left with less weight than she brought in, and when the door shut, Ethan felt lighter too. Emily watched him return to the garden, where Liam had built a small tower of sticks. "Come see Mr. Ethan," the boy called. Ethan smiled. "On my way, soldier." Slowly, without help, he walked across the lawn. No cane, no fear, just a quiet determination stitched into every step. Later that evening, as stars bled into the sky, the three of them sat by the fire pit. Emily whispered, "Do you think the worst is behind us?" Ethan answered, "I think the best is just beginning." Liam looked up, eyes bright. "Can we build something tomorrow?" "We already are," Ethan said. "Every day." And for the first time, the future didn't feel borrowed or conditional. It felt like home. Spring crept in slowly, as if hesitant to disrupt the delicate peace that had settled over Ethan's estate. Flowers began to bloom beside the stone paths, and the lake finally shed its ice. Liam had started calling it the mirror because it only reflected when it felt safe. Ethan found that poetic, too poetic for a 6-year-old, but that was Liam, wiser than his years, unaware of how many storms he'd already survived. Emily watched from the patio as Liam climbed the garden's oak tree, nimble and fearless. "He's gotten stronger," she said. Ethan sat beside her, sipping coffee. "He has someone worth climbing for." Emily turned to him, a question lingering behind her eyes. She didn't ask it. Not yet. But Ethan already felt its weight. That evening, while Emily bathed Liam and hummed a tune Ethan didn't recognize, he sat at his desk, fingers hovering over a form. Application for legal guardianship. It wasn't about blood. It wasn't even about rights. It was about anchoring something real. He had once owned empires, managed billions, but nothing had ever felt as terrifying as signing that line. Later that night, after Liam had fallen asleep between them, his new favorite place, Ethan turned to Emily. "What would you say if I wanted to adopt him?" The room froze. Emily looked at him like he'd spoken in a forgotten language. You want to?" "No," Ethan said. "I need to because I already love him like he's mine, because he already is." Emily's eyes filled instantly. "I thought about it," she admitted, "so many times, but I was scared you only saw me, that you'd never want the whole package." Ethan reached for her hand. "You are the package, both of you, and I've never wanted anything more." They held each other that night in silence, not because words failed, but because none were needed. The next day, Ethan met with his lawyer. "This isn't just paperwork," the man warned. "You'll have to declare your intentions publicly. It'll draw media attention. Veronica could challenge it." "Let her," Ethan replied. "I've stood in fire before. I'll do it again, if it means giving him a name that means home." Emily took Liam to the notary office, where he sat in a swivel chair and spun in circles. "Am I getting a new name?" he asked. Emily smiled. "Only if you want one." Liam tilted his head. "I like Ethan's name. It sounds strong." She knelt beside him. "Then maybe we'll borrow it, just for keeps." Later, at dinner, Ethan handed Liam a piece of paper with a question written in block letters. "Do you want to be a Holloway?" Liam looked up. "Is that like a superhero?" Ethan nodded. "The kind that never gives up." Liam grinned, then threw his arms around Ethan's neck. "Then I want to be one too." Tears burned Ethan's eyes. Emily kissed his cheek. "You're braver than you know." He whispered, "He's giving me something no one ever has. A second chance. Not to be great, but to be good." Emily smiled. "And I finally believe we're safe enough to build." That night they lay under the stars, Liam between them, pointing out constellations he made up himself. "That one's the fighter, and that one's the hugger, and that one's the lighthouse." Ethan asked, "Why a lighthouse?" Liam replied, "Because it never moves. Even when it's scared, it helps others come home." Emily closed her eyes, overwhelmed by how much one small heart could carry. Ethan pulled her close, whispering, "I thought I was giving him roots, but he gave me wings." She touched his chest, where the scar still rested. "And now, finally, they're starting to heal." In the distance, the lake shimmered, and this time it reflected. The courtroom smelled like old wood and new hope. Ethan sat in a tailored suit that felt tighter than armor, while Emily held Liam's hand on the bench beside him. The judge, a woman with grey eyes and a gentle smile, read the file silently, tapping her pen against the pages. Every second stretched like a rope pulled taut, and at the center of it all, Liam swung his feet, utterly calm. Outside, reporters lined the steps. Word of Ethan's recovery, his confession, and now this, a surprise adoption, had spread. Like wildfire. Some called it redemption, others called it distraction, but Ethan didn't care about headlines anymore, only heartbeats, only the boy beside him. "I've read the affidavit," the judge finally said. "Mr. Holloway, you're aware this child has no verified birth record, no paternal history, and a biological mother deceased under suspicious circumstances." "I am," Ethan said. "And you still wish to adopt him?" "Yes." "Knowing that this decision makes you legally responsible for his education, safety, and emotional development?" "Yes." The judge leaned forward. "And you, Ms. Carter?" Emily's voice was clear. "I'm his mother, in every way that counts. I stand by this." Liam tilted his head. "Can I say something too?" The judge smiled. "Of course." He stood, small but sure. "I just want to stay with them. They're my home, that's all." The courtroom fell quiet. The judge blinked away something in her eye, then nodded. "Decision pending. Final ruling in 72 hours. Outside, cameras flashed. Ethan shielded Liam as they moved through the crowd. "They treat it like a movie," he muttered. Emily whispered, "But it's our life, and we're writing the ending." That night, someone knocked on the estate gate. It was Veronica. Ethan opened the door himself, against Emily's protests. Veronica stood in a white coat, makeup perfect, eyes hollow. "I'm not here to fight," she said. "I just needed to say goodbye to something real." Ethan said nothing. She looked around the foyer. "This place used to be cold, now it breathes." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "This is the last piece of my leverage. The original offshore file, unedited, untouched. I could have buried you, but I won't." Ethan hesitated. "Why now?" Veronica's voice cracked. "Because somewhere along the way, I stopped wanting to win and started wanting to heal." Ethan took the envelope, nodding once. "Then start by forgiving yourself." Veronica left, quietly, no drama, no flames. Emily found him an hour later in the study. "Was it closure?" she asked. "It was something," Ethan replied. "Maybe the final door I needed to shut." Emily sat beside him. "You've changed." He looked at her. "Because of you, because of Liam, because of the fall." She whispered, "And now you're rising." The next morning, the judge's call came early. Ethan picked up, heart racing. Her voice was calm but warm. "The adoption is approved. As of this moment, Liam Holloway is officially yours." Ethan nearly dropped the phone. Emily gasped when he told her. Liam, listening from the hallway, ran in screaming, "I'm a Holloway! I'm a Holloway!" They spent the day in the garden celebrating quietly, just the three of them. No cameras, no press, just sunlight and soil and laughter. Ethan knelt beside Liam as they planted a tree. "You know what this is?" "A tree?" Liam guessed. Ethan smiled. "It's an oath that we're putting down roots, together." That night, as Liam slept between them, Ethan turned to Emily. "What do you think it means?" she whispered. "What?" "To be a father." Emily thought for a moment. "It means showing up. When it's hard, when it's beautiful, when it's quiet." Ethan kissed her forehead. "Then I'll never leave." And as the moon climbed high, casting silver across their home, a family once broken, by secrets, by pain, by fate, became something whole. Spring settled like a whispered promise. Trees bloomed, air warmed, and laughter, once foreign to the estate, now echoed through every hallway. Liam rode his bike in figure-eights on the driveway, his balance steadier each day. Ethan stood by the gate, arms crossed, watching with a grin. "That's my boy," he whispered. Emily approached from behind, wrapping her arms around him. "He's growing so fast," she murmured. Ethan kissed her temple. "He's blooming." And for the first time, he wasn't speaking in metaphor. The ground felt stable beneath them now. The air tasted like future, even the old study once. His war room now held books and drawings, not secrets and panic. Still, a part of Ethan remained vigilant. You don't rise from the ashes without checking for embers. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a folded sheet. One sentence: "You can't escape what you built." Emily found it. On his desk. Her expression didn't shift, but her hands gripped the paper tighter than she meant to. "Do you think it's him?" Ethan shook his head. "He's in custody. Could be anyone. Could be nothing." But neither of them believed that. That night, Ethan stayed awake while Emily slept beside him, Liam curled at their feet. He opened his laptop, searched old keywords. Shaw affiliates, anonymous holdings, Grace Wells' death, inquiry, one link, buried, recent, dismissal of supporting witness in Grace Wells' case, motion by retired judge under appeal. He clicked deeper. A name stood out, one that didn't belong. Jonathan Derren, a former colleague, an old ally from the board, someone Ethan had once trusted, someone who had vanished when the fallout hit. Ethan's breath caught. He's cleaning up loose ends. The final bloom hadn't come. This was the root rot beneath it, the kind that kills silently, slowly. He met with the journalist from Berlin again the next day. "Jonathan Derren is still pulling strings," he said. "He protected Colin, funded him." She nodded. "He went underground after the collapse, but I've traced him. He's building a consultancy, recruiting, replacing the old empire with a leaner machine." Ethan exhaled. "And now I'm the cautionary tale." Back at home, Ethan sat with Emily in the garden. Liam was asleep upstairs, finally trusting his dreams again. "We have a choice," Ethan said. "We can disappear, or we can burn the rest of it down." Emily looked at him. "What about the life we built?" "That's the cost," he said. "If I go after them, the cameras come back, the threats, the pressure. We lose the quiet." She was silent for a long time, then said, "But we don't lose us." He met her eyes. "How are you so sure?" Emily smiled. "Because we already survived the storm. Now we're just choosing whether to garden or rebuild the sky." Ethan walked to the therapy room alone that night. He gripped the bars, not because he needed them, but because they reminded him who he became there. He whispered to the dark, "Do I want peace or justice?" His legs trembled slightly, then stilled. "What I want is purpose." The next morning he met the journalist again. "Prepare everything," he said. "I'm going public, with the last names, the cleanup crew, the corruption." She blinked. "You're sure?" "Not even close," Ethan said. "But I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it so my son grows up in a world that remembers." Emily stood beside him on the terrace that evening, watching the garden. "What now?" she asked. Ethan took her hand. "Now we bloom, loud enough for everyone to hear." And far away in an unnamed boardroom, a phone vibrated. A man in a sharp grey suit looked down, then up, his jaw clenched. "Holloway's moving again." And so was the storm. The interview aired on a quiet Sunday. No countdown, no headlines, just a single upload from a verified account titled "The Full Story, Ethan Holloway." For 2 hours, the world watched as Ethan laid it bare. Names, dates, corruption, redemption, grief. He spoke of Grace, of Emily, of Liam, of Colin, of Veronica, of himself, and when it was done, there was nothing left to hide. No one expected what followed. Protests outside government buildings, investigations reopened, frozen assets thawed, then seized, former executives summoned, Colin's sentence doubled. Veronica, now a whistleblower herself, released more files. And Ethan, he stepped away. He chose out, because some legacies aren't about walls or towers, they're about freedom. Months passed, seasons shifted. Liam grew taller, smarter, bolder. The estate transformed again. Cameras came down, alarms replaced by wind chimes. Ethan built a greenhouse where the therapy room used to be. "We don't rebuild wounds," he told Emily one morning. "We plant over them." Emily had begun writing again. A memoir, maybe, or a warning, she never said. But Ethan would catch her scribbling notes on napkins, receipts, even Liam's drawings. "You're remembering us," he'd tease. She'd smile every time. "No, I'm marking us, so the world remembers too." One afternoon, a letter arrived from the judge who'd approved the adoption. Handwritten, it read, "Few men unmake themselves with such grace. Viewer still rebuild with such courage. Thank you for showing us what parenthood can mean." Ethan folded the note into his journal, where it stayed, next to Liam's first crayon portrait of their family. Then came the festival, a small event. In the village nearby, flowers, fireflies, and music. Liam begged to go. "I want to show them my parents," he said. Ethan and Emily exchanged a look, amused, stunned, proud. "Let's show them then," Ethan said. And under strings of lights and the hum of violins, the three of them danced. No cameras, no speeches, just bare feet and joy. Liam stood on a wooden platform at one point announcing, "This is my family. We beat the monsters." The crowd laughed, clapped and cheered. Ethan and Emily held each other a little tighter, because in those words lived everything they'd endured and everything they'd become. Back home that night, Liam fell asleep, early. Ethan carried him to bed, tucked the blanket under his chin. He paused at the door, watching the boy breathe. "You saved me," he whispered. "Without even knowing," Emily came up behind him. "And you saved us by not giving up on yourself, on us." They stood in the doorway, two warriors no longer fighting, just living. Later, under the stars, Ethan traced Emily's fingers, in his palm. "Do you think we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders?" She smiled. "Eventually, but not today. Today, we look forward." He pulled her close. "I used to build empires. Now I build gardens." She whispered, "And I've never felt safer in the wild." The next morning, Liam woke them before dawn. "Come see," he shouted. In the yard, the oak tree they planted was blooming. Tiny blossoms, pale, resilient, defiantly alive. "It bloomed," Liam grinned. "You said it might take years." Ethan knelt, touched the bark. "Some things bloom early, some bloom late. But they bloom because someone stayed." Emily placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "It's not just a tree." Ethan nodded. "No, it's us." The garden stretched behind them, messy, wild, uncontained. Not perfect, but real. And growing. Because in the end, what they chose wasn't survival. They chose to live. She thought she was just helping him heal, but maybe he was the one meant to save her. What would you do if a simple job unraveled secrets that could change everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And if stories like this keep you watching until the last second, don't forget to subscribe. There's always more beneath the surface.